She's cleaning herself,
let
and this is the boyfriend.
me let me see if it's live. I think we're
Uh,
I think we're live. Let me hold on. I gotta turn down. What's going on, everybody? If you're here, we're getting it rolling slow. I'm here with Treka from Syria. He's a comedian who has made quite the impact online. And if you came in early, I can't tell if it's broadcasting live or now or not. You got to see his cat. We were fooling around as you're coming in, and we'll probably do so for a few minutes. Let me make sure it's working. Someone say you're good. Awesome, cool. All right, so we'll wait about a couple of minutes and we'll chat back and forth for now as everyone gets in. This is my first ever live stream on Google. I live stream on Facebook a lot. I'm doing the Zoom stuff. I was gonna have him on Make America Debate again, but one, he's in Syria. Two, between the internet and the audio and stuff, it made more sense to be live on YouTube. So I'm gonna give it over to Treka. Let people know what's up while people are pouring in.
What's up, everyone? My name is Treka. I'm a Syrian comedian. I'm living in Syria right now. And now I'm just chilling, and I was just showing Anomaly my cats, and this is Nusa, and this is her husband, and they were both sleeping. And that's it, we're just chilling right now, and things are great.
Nice. All right, I'm gonna post this on YouTube or I'm sorry, I'm gonna post it on Twitter real quick, and then I'll post it on Facebook. See if we can get some people in here. I'm live with Treka from Syria. Check out the very rare interview. All right, post it on Twitter, and then we'll post it on Facebook, and then we'll start it up. All right. In the meantime, Treka's cat will keep you very, very entertained.
Okay. Look, now she's licking herself because she's really clean. And now she stopped because she was like, "What the hell are you doing? Can I have some privacy?" But now she kept on again. I think she just doesn't care.
All right, let's see.
I
All
have
right.
3 cats at home. Do you have any pets at home?
I don't have any cats or dogs. I'm lame. One, I just don't. Two, I guess I'm all in the mix where I'm like, you know what? I could barely take care of myself. I don't know if I should bring a cat or dog into this lifestyle right now.
Yeah, when I was young, we had 2 dogs, and now we have 3 cats. So like it's always pets in the house. Like every 4 months, one of the cats bring new kittens. So like we play with them like for like 2 months, then we give them out to like people who want to, have cats, and it's always like that in the house.
Nice. All right, so I posted it on Twitter. I posted it on Facebook for everyone live. Thank you for being here. We won't make people wait. It's a rare YouTube live stream classic, very one of the few, but we'll get into it. I got my interview questions right here for Treka, who first off, I'm gonna say if you guys don't know Treka, he's a comedian from Syria who's done a great job not just cracking jokes and making people laugh, but doing like reporting via YouTube and Facebook videos, which has been great. And I've learned a lot through him. And I've also shared some of his videos because I really, really like them. So we're going to get through everything here, all the questions that I'm sure a lot of people on both sides, his fans, and probably the few haters he has. I can imagine you don't get hated on too much. It's probably much more love. On that note, though, the first question is, who are you and how long have you lived in Syria?
Well, my name is Treka. I'm a Syrian comedian, and I'm also a journalist and an activist and a rapper, and I'm a musician too. Like an artist in general. I was raised in Nigeria. I stayed there for 15 years, and then I came to Syria in 2008. And I've been in Syria ever since 2008. Well, in the time where I was living in Nigeria, I used to come to Syria every year, like every summer and stuff like that. So I've been in Syria since 2008 till now, 2018.
Okay. And you said Nigeria before that?
Yeah, I was raised there.
Okay, cool. See, I didn't even know that. So you went through did you catch on, like, were you there from the very beginning of the civil war in Syria, or did you
Oh yeah,
come?
I was there before the civil war by far, so I have a very, very, very good memory of how Syria was before the crisis and how it became after the crisis.
Great. That's my next question. So the Syrian civil war, how did it happen? Because Syria went from, you'll let me know how it was before, how it actually happened, how the civil war became, and then also how the conflict and terrorist organizations, took control of major cities in Syria. I'd love to
Mm.
hear your perspective.
Well, before the crisis ever started, Syria was one of the safest countries in the Middle East. It was one of the safest countries. Whenever there were countries in the Middle East that were like going through a war, they always used to seek refugee in Syria, whether it was the Palestinians or the Iraqis or the Lebanese. They always used to come to Syria because Syria was always known to be one of the safest countries. And it also used to be one of the cheapest countries in the Middle East. Like people in Lebanon used to come to Syria to do shopping for the whole month. Like they will buy all the groceries in Syria because it was way much cheaper in Syria. Excuse me. But then the Syrian war started, and it all started first of all with protesting, and not huge numbers, like a couple of hundreds. It started happening the protest. Then after a couple of weeks, it started becoming violent. A couple of police and army members from the Syrian army got shot in uh, in one of those protests. So it was obvious that, of course, there were peaceful protests, people that had demands, that wanted things to change, had specific laws that they want to remove. There were these people 100%, but also amongst these peaceful protesters, there were people that were holding weapons, there were people that were shooting the people, there were people that were causing chaos, they were destroying public property, and they were like, inciting violence and chaos. So you had these two sides in Syria. So of course, when the outside governments that were against the Syrian government for all their own uh, specific reasons, they saw that this was an opportunity for them to overthrow the Syria's government so that they can replace the Syrian president with a puppet, with someone that follows their orders, because the Syrian president has always been known to be like independent. It doesn't take orders from the West. It doesn't take orders from Saudi Arabia. It doesn't take orders from Turkey, from anyone. So they wanted to replace him. So that is how all these governments that were against Syria's government, they started funding terrorist groups. They were funding militants who are now known as ISIS, as Al Qaeda, as Jabhat al Nusra, as Ahrar al Sham. They were funding, each country was funding a specific group. And all these groups had different names, but they all shared the same Wahhabi ideology, whether it was ISIS or Al Qaeda or Jabhat al Nusra. All these groups had something in common. They were all Islamic extremist groups, and they all wanted to overthrow Syria's secular government and replace it with Sharia law. That is what they wanted to do. So
Wow.
these groups are very, very dangerous. Why? For many important reasons. Because Syria has a very, very multi-religious and ethnic population. Syria has the Muslim Sunnis, it has the Muslim Shiites, it has the Alawis, it has the Christian Orthodox, it has the Christian Catholics and the Druze and other ethnicities like the Kurds and the Armenians. So it is very, very, very dangerous to have groups that are militants that want to uh, become the government and implement Sharia law on all these people, because it's first of all, it's unfair and very selfish. So one of the reasons why I support the Syrian government is because it has a secular law. It treats all the people equally, regardless of their religion, and that is something very important. So that is how it all started. How it all started. government started funding these terrorists. These terrorists started gaining control of areas. They started implementing Sharia law on the people by force. You will start hearing about the massacre of Malula, which is one of the most oldest and ancient Christian towns in the world. Like you would read about it. It has one of the oldest churches, and the people of Malula till today still speak the language of Jesus Christ, which is the Aramaic language. Read about the massacre that happened when these jihadist terrorists entered the town of Malula in Damascus countryside. They burned churches. They killed the Christians there. They started destroying statues that are thousands and thousands of years old. So these people are barbarians, and the last thing the Syrian people want is for these people to succeed. But of course, the outside government don't give a F about the Syrian people. All they care about is their own interest. Their interest is to let us remove the Syrian president. Let's put someone who is our puppet. Whatever we tell him, he will say yes, and that's it. So,
okay, yeah, that's good stuff. I have a few questions on that. So yeah, absolutely. So you're saying that it actually started with protests that were peaceful, like becoming violent, and then they used that as an excuse to just fuel the fire per se. And on that note, I want to say, because you're saying that outside forces came, countries, such as Western countries that we think are our friends or even ourselves, were funding these radical, terrorists per se, who didn't even get along with the people in your country. My question on top of, so it started with protests and they piggybacked on that. How does that benefit the United States to have radical, terrorism take over Syria? Because to me, that sounds like a bad idea for all of the countries who, you're saying supported it.
Look, this all started in the Obama administration, and to them, they don't care about how it happens. All they care about is their goal, their objective. So the Obama administration, they funded ISIS not because they like ISIS. They funded it because they knew that ISIS is a power that can overthrow the Syrian government. Their main objective is to overthrow the Syrian government. So they would do they would do anything that they would find that would like benefit them. So that's how he did it.
And what about borders? Because I know you said it started with protests, and I've spoken to, because I just asked, as a friend, I was like, what else, how did this happen? Because I want to know too, and I see weird stuff happening here. How are the borders? Like, did you guys have secure borders, or did that come into play?
Okay. You see, Syria's location is very, very strategic because Syria is in the middle, and in the north you have Turkey, then you have Lebanon, you have Israel, you have Jordan, you have Iraq, and they're all around Syria. So these terrorists entered illegally into Syria. They entered through the borders because you can't secure the border of the whole country. Like America, for an example, till today is still having problems with the Mexican border. So can you imagine Syria, how many countries it has on its border? So these terrorists were entering through Turkey, through Lebanon, through Iraq, through Jordan. They were entering from everywhere. So they entered illegally, and of course they joined ISIS, they joined Al Qaeda, they joined Jabhat al-Nusra. Because I also did many videos, many videos exposing all the foreign fighters that are in Syria. That's why I said that Western countries, not only Western, I'm not saying America only. I'm saying America, I'm saying England, I'm saying France, I'm saying Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey. All these countries, they played a very, very huge role in financing these terrorists. I did many videos exposing all the foreign fighters. You have people from Afghanistan in Syria. You have people from Libya in Syria. You have people from Somalia in Syria. You have people from Sudan in Syria. If you ask people in Germany right now, and when you want to ask them about the refugee camps that are in Germany, they'll tell you that there are a lot of African people in the refugee camps that are claiming that they are Syrian citizens. These African people that are in Germany, they were Al Qaeda and ISIS fighters in Syria. And when things got bad for them, they immediately packed up their bags, said goodbye to their camels, and went to Europe seeking refugee, claiming that they are Syrian citizens. And they were telling the government that it's because of the war we lost all our ID, but we are Syrian citizens. So there's a lot of proof that there are foreign fighters fighting in Syria. ISIS, Al Qaeda, Jabhat al Nusra, they're not all Syrian fighters. There are Syrian fighters in ISIS and Al Qaeda, but many of them are coming from outside governments.
So how many people in, say, the US, Canada, and Europe, you know, the big refugee push from the UN, who, what you're saying and what I, with my research, is actually caused the refugee crisis in Syria, and then they're bringing these people to, that's what bothers me the most. People say, oh, you have no heart, but it's like, no, these same people that you're saying that are funding the organizations who started the civil war and helped fuel the refugee crisis are then taking people who aren't even from Syria and then throwing them in Germany and Europe. So what I'm asking you is, how big of a percent of people that are now in Germany, Sweden, UK, Canada, United States, how big of a percentage of them do you think are ISIS fighters directly?
Well, I think maybe 25% out of them are ISIS, Al Qaeda, and Jabhat al-Nusra, and that's not a low number, because you know it takes one guy with a suicide belt to blow up a cafe and kill 50, 60, 100 people. Just takes one person. That's what they've been doing here in Syria. Every single day, they'll throw missiles inside the mortars that they shell on the main city. They start putting nails and glass so that when the mortar falls and explodes, the nails scatter around so that they can kill as much people as they want, because to them they're killing sinners. So now there are a lot of people in Germany. You will even hear about stories like in Germany where you have people, a man killing his wife in an excuse of I killed her for saving my honor or something. Like if you saw her wearing a short skirt, you would see hear stories of refugees attacking homosexuals. Like if they see two gay couple like walking in the street, like they would harass them. You would hear stories of these like refugees in Germany asking and demanding the German government to create segregated schools. You know, like schools for boys and schools for girls. Like these people, they're not only entering Europe, they're trying to implement their ignorant ideology on the people of Europe by force, and then they get offended when people tell them that we don't want your ignorance in our country.
Wow.
You know?
So that's a big fact, because in general, I know even left-wing organizations and Reuters and mainstream publications, they're admitting that gun violence is up in Europe, knife violence is up, rape, female genital mutilation, all these things that you don't want in Europe and elsewhere, they're all up. And they've even Newsweek, who's super left-wing, you know, hates any right-wing ideology, they're admitting that's because of the increase in migrants coming from, you know, Africa and the Middle East. And you're saying, which a lot of other people have said, because it's the PC, oh no, we got to help all people. But you're saying up to maybe 25% of these people in Europe now are literally ISIS fighters that are lying about where they're from.
Yeah. Because see what happens. What happens is this: when the Syrian army continues liberating more areas. So these ISIS fighters know that, oh my God, okay, remain 2 more days and the Syrian military will be in my area. So they're definitely going to kill me. So what should I do? Okay, wait, let me pack up my bags, go to Turkey. Then when they go to Turkey, they enter boats, go to Greece, and then from Greece, they spread around the European countries. And when they go to the European countries, they'll be like, oh, we were running from the dictator Assad that was killing us. All we need is, to help us and stuff like that. So they go. When the European government asks them for their identification, like give me your name, your passport, your ID, whatever, they'll tell them, oh no, all my paperwork got destroyed in the war and I don't have anything on me. And that's how like they con them. And then they sit in Europe, and then they start getting free salary. After a couple of months, the German government will give them a house, and every month they'll give them salary, and they'll just be chilling, you know. So look, I don't have any problem with the refugees that are going to Germany that want to, you know, that want to learn the language, that want to, be part of the Western culture, society, and mindset. The people that want to integrate to Western society. I have no problem with these refugees. My problem is with the people that go to Europe and try to implement their ignorant ideology on the people by force. This is the problem that even the European population are worried about.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No,
it's
I was
really dangerous.
I appreciate you saying that, because my big problem, and I get misconstrued a lot here too, is of course, obviously, right wing, left wing, both sides have a point, both sides don't. But it's strictly left wing and social justice and political correct culture that is stopping these type of conversations for having, because they say,
Mhm.
Europe and America and Israel all bad. And I'm willing to call out the bad in Israel, United States, say what they're doing, call out Europe, call out people with lighter skin. I have no problem with that. But when you say all these people bad, and then they serve as a PR team for some of the worst going on in Africa, in the Middle East, even in
Yeah.
South America, Central America, these are things that people want to come to the United States to escape from. So when you say all of that's good, and like if you're to have this conversation here, you could probably get away with it because you live in Syria. I can get away
Mhm.
with it sometimes because I speak kindly and I'm not like a total dick about it. But a lot
Mhm.
of people aren't, and it's like taboo, even basically saying semi this, because I mean, I've heard from even people that are, pro-Muslim, or I'm not even saying ISIS members, but just honest Muslim people in Germany saying similar stuff to you. Like, dude, there's a lot of ISIS fighters here. Like, not me, but there
Mhm.
are. So we can't even have these conversations. And then you have, I know you've made fun of him before on a funny video, Justin Trudeau saying he wants to house ISIS members. He's not even hiding it. He says, we'll teach them podcasts and, video games and everything will be fine. And you're just like, what? Like, it's not, he's not even saying, hey, don't disrespect Muslims, which is fine. He's like, hey, I'm pro ISIS. I'm like, what the heck is
Uh,
wrong with this guy?
Justin Trudeau is saying that I am bringing back ISIS fighters to Canada, and I'm going to put them like in a rehabilitation program that will bring them back to their humanity and to bring them back. Like, this guy is crazy. This guy is crazy. He's putting his people's lives in danger. Like, I would never ever bring them back, because you see, like, what ISIS did in Syria is monstrous. Like, they killed, they beheaded people, they were cutting people in half, they were eating hearts, and there are videos of them. You find them on the internet, very disturbing. But you would see an ISIS member eating the heart of a Syrian soldier after killing him. They're very, very, very violent people. They're barbarians. They are not tolerant. This is the biggest like issue. They are not tolerant. None of us have problems with anybody from any religions. We don't have problems with Muslims. We don't have problems with Christians, with Jews, with Druze. We don't have problems with anybody. The problem is when you find somebody that is an extremist. An extremist is somebody that is not tolerant. To him, if he kills a non believer, to him, he's doing God a favor. Like, he's going to go up to heaven, and it's 72 Mary virgins, and like, to him, that's the goal, that's the dream. So these people are very dangerous, and for Justin Trudeau to be talking about bringing them back, and I even saw a video of him calling them foreign fighters. That's what he was calling them, foreign fighters. He was trying to sugarcoat it, to sound, I don't know, politically correct or something. But like, the guy is a joke, and he's putting his people's lives in danger.
Yeah, no, I feel you. That was the next level to me, because I was like, usually they just hide it through political correct talk and like social justice, fake activism, where for some reason they complain about irrelevant stuff that I'm sure you and many other people wish they had to deal with, as opposed to actual savages like that. And they think that's the big scoop. And then they actually support, promote, and try to bring the worst of the worst people into countries who would treat gays and women absolutely horribly. I want to ask you a question, because I've got heat from this from friends and, a lot of people on the progressive left and, people on the right say stuff. I don't really care. But did Donald Trump help, hurt, or not really do anything in Syria? Because a lot of people want to know. And, out here, we're pretty much torn on that.
Well, look, it's mixed. I'll tell you why. Because uh, in the Obama days, when Obama was president, the situation in Syria was terrible, and it was just getting worse and worse every year. It was getting worse and worse. When Trump became president, in this 2 years, Syria has really improved. Like we have the Syrian army has liberated many main and major cities here in Syria. Now, I don't know if that is because Trump helped, but maybe it's because Trump wasn't like being aggressive on Syria the same way Obama was. Because let us also not forget that Trump struck us a couple of times, so he's not completely helping us. I don't think so, but I also think that he is not being aggressive on Syria like Obama did, because right now we're in 2018. From 2016 to 2018, Damascus has been completely liberated, which is the capital city. Dera has been completely liberated, which is the city that the whole civil war started in. It's Dera. Now Sweda is liberated. Sweda wasn't liberated, but it's safe. You have now almost 85% of Syria liberated from all terrorist groups. Now all that is remaining is the city of Idlib. And now what is happening in Idlib is that they have reached to an agreement of like a ceasefire, and I think it's just like a couple of months they might do reconciliation with the militants there, and the foreign fighters will get the hell out of our country, and I don't know, they might go back to Europe. So I think Europe might face problems soon. Uh,
No,
so so
good.
what I am saying is that in 2018, Syria has improved uh, like dramatically. I'm telling you, 85% of Syria is now completely liberated. So I think uh, Trump is not as bad as Obama was in Syria. And look what he did in North Korea, for an example. Like he spoke to them, he met with the president of North Korea, and now there's like a peace between North Korea and South Korea. So I would advise President Trump, if he's watching this video, to maybe one day consider coming to Syria and meeting with the Syrian president. I think he would be surprised a lot, because there is something Donald Trump did something that I really what they call it appreciate, which is expose the mainstream media. Now, this is something very important that he did. Like the mainstream media being liars is not something that we got that we didn't know. Like we all in Syria, we all knew that CNN, MSNBC, and CBC, and all these news networks, they're all fake news. Like we knew that, but most of the American people didn't know. So, like Donald Trump exposed the mainstream media. So my message to Trump is that now you know 100% that the mainstream media has been lying for on many things. So you should consider the fact that the mainstream media has been lying on many things in Syria, about Syria. So I think you should come to Syria and meet with the Syrian president. Maybe like things will dramatically improve between like the relationship between two countries.
Absolutely. No, what I know, and a lot of people are purists, and obviously even you're rational for having to be there. A lot of the people who are more hostile to me don't even live there and don't deal with it. And you're very reasonable. I know that Trump actually overturned $1 billion program that was funding rebels. So I think even cutting the funding there, you said it got a lot better. I think that had a lot to do with it, and he's fighting with our own intelligence communities and leaders from the past, because they were very interested in doing to Syria what they did to Libya and Iraq, which was overthrow the leader, which we have proof that it not only doesn't help the United States, it doesn't help that country, and it lets these terrorist organizations thrive. And Syria being a secular government, potentially even safer and better than Libya and Iraq were. It really was a confusing thing that a lot of people on the left and right didn't support. And he overturned that program. And then as soon as he said he was going to get out of Syria, there was like the chemical attack or whatever. And then so there's a lot of forces definitely working against him. I think that element of it helped. I know you said that it wasn't perfect, and I'm sure it wasn't. But on that note, I guess what I want to ask you too is, a lot of concerns from people, the media, and also just people on the left and the right. They're concerned with Russia and Iran because they know, as you know, countries and terrorist organizations were kind of pushing against your government. Russia and Iran were helping you guys. So I guess what's your thoughts on that? Do you think it's possible that Russia and Iran pose a threat to the US and the Western world through Syria, or do you think that's overhyped?
No, no, that is overhyped, and I'm going to explain exactly why. Now, Iran and Russia are allies of Syria uh, way before the Syrian war ever started. You're talking more than 50 years. They've been allies, they've been friends. Now, Russia and Iran are in Syria, that is true. But Russia and Iran are in Syria after the Syrian government officially invited them to enter Syria and help out in the fight against the terrorists. Now, that is the difference between the Russian interference in the Syrian war and the American interference in the Syrian war. When Russia, Iran, for an example, wants to strike a specific area in Syria, they communicate with the Syrian government. They tell them, okay, in the after an hour, we're going to attack this area because ISIS is in this area, blah 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 blah. So there is a communication, and they transfer information between each other. That's the difference between the Russian and Iranians' interference in the Syrian war and the American and other countries' interference.
Absolutely. And do you think that Iran, because I kind of stay out of this stuff because I'm unfamiliar and it's very complex, but a big talking point on the right would be that Iran is threatening the United States, or kind of has that ideology, because Iran, like you were saying with the Sharia ideology, I don't know if they're totally there, but they're definitely super much more Islamic than a lot of other countries. So do you think that they want to destroy the US? Because I think that I don't know for sure if that's a threat as far as like, or that's a belief on the right, is that we have to stop Iran and Syria because they're using Syria to eventually attack us or our allies. What do you think about
Man,
that?
look, Iran is not a threat to the United States. We all know that. I mean, it's like seeing me giving Brock Lesnar threats. Like, you know, that's it. Like, Iran is not a very strong country, you know. So America being paranoid that Iran is like planning to defeat, I don't think so at all. No, Iran doesn't. Like place a threat on the American country. So I just think it's politics. It's politics. America and Saudi Arabia are allies, and Iran is the enemy of Saudi Arabia, and it's all politics. Like even the Russian interference and the American interference. This is all for their own interest. Like Russia wants to be in control of this area in the Middle East, and America doesn't want Russia to be in control of Syria. America wants to be the one
Absolutely.
in control, and both of them are just fighting each other through proxies, and the only people that are eating shit is us, the people, like people like me, people like my friends and my neighbors. But this
Yeah.
is all like a political chess games that unfortunately we the people have to like suffer the consequences of.
Absolutely. So we got to figure it out. Kind of like with North Korea, I think, they were so threatening towards us because we posed a major threat towards them for a while. But now when you had Trump, instead of hating so hard, he went over there and had a conversation. Now they're not trying to bomb us anymore because it's almost like a self-defense tactic. And I'm on the side of, with Gaddafi, and even, we always say, hey, we're going to, disarm, and then we'll be your friend. And then we don't. So why would any other country believe that? Why wouldn't they want to defend themselves against us if we've done this so many times? And I think the only way through that, especially so you guys don't have to suffer through what you went through, would be us really talking to Russia and Iran and coming to a conclusion. Unfortunately, politicians on both sides, and even Trump, I don't know what it's going to take to get to that level, but I pray that it does happen. On that note, I want to say, what religion are you? And what could you tell me about your experiences in Syria with people who are Christian, people who are Islamic, and people who are others? Like, how do you feel about all that?
Well, I come from the Druze community. It's a small religion that only exists in Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and the Golan Heights. Uh, my dad is half Orthodox Christian. My dad is half Druze and half Orthodox Christian. And me personally, I'm not a religious person. I'm not a religious person. I'm more like, agnostic somehow. But the religious diversity in Syria is very important because, like, in Syria, we really get along. We really get along. Like, before ISIS and Al Qaeda infiltrated like our country and entered our country, uh, all the people from all religions in Syria, they lived peacefully. Like I told you, like before the Syrian crisis ever started, Syria was one of the safest countries in the Middle East. Like, imagine, like, whenever you hear the Middle East, you will always, like, hear about terrorism, about war, about all this stuff. But like, Syria was one of the safe countries because it has a secular law. Like, all the religions in Syria, they're all no religious group is treated as a second class citizen. No religious group is oppressed. Everyone can practice his religion uh, freely. Like, in every street you would find a mosque, and near it you would find a church, and near it you will find a bar and a nightclub. All this in the same street. So people, like, they're compared to the rest of the Middle East, like, Syria is a very good example of like a developing and like progressive country.
So on that note, I guess what would you say? What do you think the percentage of extremists are in each religion? Like how many extremist Christians or agnostics slash extremist Islam? And do you think, because you said it was pretty peaceful before, do you think it was like a complete outside force that kind of infiltrated, or do you think it's more prevalent? Because that's a big debate that can't be had, because you have some people who are saying they're all perfect, and then the other side they're all terrible, and I'm in the middle, and I get heat from all sides. But it's like, what percentage do you think is extremist in each religion?
Look, in every religion you would find extremists. Now, I think maybe in today's time, maybe the Islamic religion is the most religion that is having extremists. Like, if you would go to any country that has like the majority of Islam, you always find there's always a fraction in that society that are extremists. Like, you would find Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. You would go to Somalia in Africa. You would find Boko Haram. If you go to Nigeria, where I used to live, there were also groups called Boko Haram that are just like ISIS. Like, they will enter a village that is full of Christians and burn it and kill like 700, 1,000 people in one day. Imagine. So in Syria, you have all this Jabhat al-Nusra, Faylaq al-Rahman, and in Iraq, and all this stuff. And I'm not really sure about the percentage because I haven't done the polls, but right now this is what the world is suffering from. It's Islamic extremism because you have many groups from many different countries funded by different governments, but all these groups have the same ideology, and it's the Wahhabi ideology. To them, they are not tolerant. To them, they believe that they want to implement Sharia law globally on everyone. Like, if they had the chance, they would make me and you wear the hijab, for crying out loud. They're
Yeah,
yeah, come on.
what countries are supporting this Wahhabi ideology? Because Democratic and Tulsi Gabbard is one here, and Rand Paul on the Republican side. They both
Mm,
say that Saudi Arabia is pushing the
yes,
Wahhabi ideology onto the world. Do you think that's true?
yes, 100%. Look, this ideology came from the land of Saudi Arabia. This ideology came from the land of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the most extremist country right now in the world. Like, they just recently allowed women to drive, and they were like celebrated like it's an accomplishment. I mean, we're in 2018, and just recently they were celebrating that they have now cinemas. Like, imagine how backwards they are. Like, they are very extremist people, and to them, they implement Sharia law. Like, for example, look at Syria. Syria, the majority of the Syrians are Muslims, but the government is a secular government. It doesn't implement Sharia law. like Saudi Arabia. So
So
yes, Saudi Arabia is the founder, is the country. Saudi Arabia is the cancer of the Middle East. That's what I see,
do you
because it
think
played a huge. Yes, continue.
do you think Iran supports Wahhabist ideology, or no, not in the same way? Because I feel like I know Saudi Arabia has more influence, money, and power for sure. But in their culture, I see my friends who move from Iran, they say that they don't have a lot of rights out there.
Hmm. I am not a fan of Iran, because they implement Sharia law on their people. Like, if you want to look at both countries, you would say that Saudi Arabia is an extremist Sunni country, and Iran is an extremist Shia country.
Totally.
It's like, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I appreciate that. And, that's something that I know Tulsi Gabbard on the left and Rand Paul on the right is pushing really, really hard. And I think in general, self-reflection is key. So with America, one great thing that we're doing now is we're finally looking at ourselves instead of blaming everyone else. And we're looking at our allies. I mean, we're having a huge shift in the UN, the EU, how we operate. And even now, Saudi Arabia is in the news big, and you have big politicians like Rand Paul asking to question our stuff. It's all good for self-reflection, and I guess it's kind of scary because the U.S., with a huge shift in allies, I think it's scaring and exciting people at the same time. But I do think this has been a good couple of years for people to reevaluate it, and especially your perspective. I'm really glad to hear all that. On the next question I want to say is, what do you think the United States of America, Canada, Europe, and the rest of the world need to know, that they're not maybe understanding? And this includes maybe Africa, South America as well, because I feel like there's like a mental revolution going on outside of politics, and there's a lot of conflict socially because of it. But what do you think people need to know or learn from maybe your experiences?
Well, they need to know that I have hairy legs. That's the most important thing. Well, what they need to know? You mean like in about Syria?
Or just like what can they learn? How can the world become a better place? Like how can we stop what happened in Syria from happening everywhere else? And I'm not just talking about extremism, like from all angles. Like how can we stop this from ever happening to you or anyone else again?
Well, they should stop putting all this billions and billions of dollars on war. They should stop war. Like, to them, they're bought. All these politicians that want war, they're bought by corporations. These corporations, they make money out of war. They To them, like, war is a business. So this strategy that they're doing, they should stop it, because millions of people are suffering. Millions of people. Because now, look, there are a lot of European countries, for an example. They are complaining that there is a refugee crisis in their country. Okay. Now they have a point, but they should have questioned their government before their government strike these countries. Because if these countries weren't striked, there wouldn't have been a refugee crisis. Like, now you have a lot of Syrians in Europe. If the Syrian war never happened, these Syrians would have never ever left, to left their country. No one has the ambition to leave his country in a boat and risk his life in the ocean to go and live in a camp and all this. It's not a good life. So I think they should stop doing war, and most importantly, the people should start questioning the mainstream media. The mainstream media is brainwashing the people. They all work for parties. Like, now, CNN, MSNBC, all these channels, like, it's known that they're for the Democratic Party. For example, Fox News, it's very clear that it's for the Republican Party. So, like, I need the American people, like, to question everything, to listen to all the sides, and, like, when they want to research about a foreign country, it's better to listen to people living in that country that are experiencing the war face to face than to listen to some guy in the studio, just talking.
Absolutely. And I like what you said. It's what I've been saying a lot, and that gets lost. There's nothing good about this for anyone. Like, literally, when the Syrian war happened and when the Libyan war happened, what happened was we got taxed. So I'm actually paying for it. They steal my money out of my taxes when I go to work. They steal that, put it towards war. It ruins and hurts your country. It ruined and hurt Libya. It affected millions of lives there. And now you have millions of people that are displaced. And then you have terrorist groups and organizations infiltrating these groups. And then you have all the same people that created it, all these European unions and Western countries that help fund this stuff, as well as other ones in the Middle East. And then they lobby to bring a bunch of people that have terrorist organizations included in it into their country. So it costs us money. It costs people's lives, it displaces millions, and then it actually ruins the Western world. It's a really, really sick plot, and it has nothing to do with right, left, Democrat, or Republican. It's a plot that hurt Syria, is hurting Europe, and if we're not careful, they're going to take all our money, they're going to start all these wars, and then every single country is going to end up in some sort of war terrorist state if they continue at this rate, because there's nothing good about it, and it's not okay from the core. It's not okay what happens after. And they've shown no signs of wanting to slow down. Besides, like you said, my favorite thing about Trump, and I get heat for it, but I don't care. He's questioning the mainstream media. It all starts with there. If you're mind controlled, they can convince you to buy anything, sell anything, vote for anybody. If you can't break out of that mentally, we're never going to have a better leader. So that alone, to me, makes him the best president I've ever seen in my lifetime. Even if he doesn't perfectly execute everything else, it all starts with that, because in 20 years, if you break out of their mind control, then we can have a free society. But until that happens, it's just a big circus.
In fact, do you know that the late night comedy shows are becoming very, very, very boring? Because
Totally.
before, when I used to watch like the late night comedy shows, the American ones, like they used to be like funny and interesting. But right now, it's all about attacking Donald Trump. It's all about attacking Donald Trump. If Donald Trump farts, they'll be like, "Oh my God, breaking news! Donald Trump farted. What does that mean? Does that mean he supports chemical weapons? Come on, let's get into the bottom of this. Come on, what they'll make a big deal out of something that no one gives a f about. Like, for an example, when they were talking about Stormy Daniels, like I am a fan of late night shows, but I was like, okay, so he had sex with a porn star 17 years ago or 10 years ago. Like, who cares, like, what does that have to do with whatever, so it's just completely anti-Trump, anti-Trump. Wherever you go, it's anti-Trump. Now, I'm not saying Donald Trump is an angel, and I'm also not saying he's a devil. He's both. But to watch the mainstream media like continuously just be anti-Trump and they have killed comedy. They have really killed comedy,
Yeah.
and even the social justice warriors right now. Whenever a comedian says a joke, they immediately jump and be like, "Oh my God, that's offensive! Oh my God, you should not say that word!" Like,
Yeah.
it's chaos in America right now. It's chaos. Like when I'm watching, I was like, I used to be like, "Wow!" Like some people are losing their minds right now.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not gotten to the streets that much, although we do have crime and a few weird people. It's like there's a spiritual and a mental war going on. Like we might not be killing each other out in the streets, but people are definitely like destroying their minds, and for sure trying to take away comedy and freedom of speech. It's awful. And that's why like people are like, why do you lean right? It's like, well, the right wing, although I disagree with them on some issues, or I maybe disagree with their attitude on some issues, they'll allow me to disagree. The left wing, they're not only not going to even let me be here or say what I want to say, but they're not even going to allow the left wing. It's like they turn against Jimmy Kimmel. They're like, he's a white man. And I was like, dude, he stood up for you for years. But all of a sudden, like, he does one thing and I see them throwing him under the bus. They're like Scarlett Johansson. Well, she's not transgender. How dare her play someone she's not on TV? That's what movies are. It's people pretending to be people they're not. That's why they're all so lame, because their whole life revolves around them being famous for pretending to be someone that they're not actually them.
It's true. It's true. And by the way, one of the main reasons why Donald Trump became president, one of the main reasons why I think Donald Trump became president is because, many Donald Trump voters, like they were like Bernie Sanders supporters. There were many people that supported Bernie Sanders. And then when they saw how the Democratic Party and the mainstream media and Hillary Clinton screwed over Bernie Sanders, like whether we're talking about when they gave Donna Brazil the questions, the debate questions, or whether they were lying about the votes, or whether the electoral votes that she had from the beginning of the debate, the democratic debates, when most of these people saw how Bernie Sanders got screwed, they all voted for Trump, and they got sick of the whole establishment. Like,
Totally. And it's probably for the better. Even if people still lean left, like I said, with the media and the breaking of the parties, like clearly Trump, albeit he's not perfect, and I don't know, it's like he's not doing what Bush and Obama did. He's straying from that. He's talking against the medium. They don't like him. They're like, Michelle Obama and George Bush have a little love affair. It's like, what else do you need to know about the two-party system and how Trump is potentially probably outside of it? On that note, I wanted to ask you about left wing and right wing. I'm going to ask you about both. We'll start with the right wing. What's your favorite thing about the modern day right wing, and what's your least favorite thing about the modern day right wing?
well, to me, when I listen to the right wing, I feel that they are more patriots. I think is the right word to choose. Like, they're more concerned about the American people than they are concerned about the rest of the world. That's why, like, when it comes to like to the immigration policy, for an example, they are more into, no, we want to secure the borders. We would prefer illegal. We will prefer immigrants to enter legally to America. I feel like. Yeah, like the right wing. There are some people in the right wing that I find very, very smart. Like, for example, Ben Shapiro. I feel like this guy is very intelligent. Like the way he. That doesn't mean I agree with him on everything, but I feel like he's like the new generation right wing that he's going to. He's influencing a lot of people. Um, what's the least thing I hate about the that I don't like about the right wings? Let me think. Uh, well, let me think.
Must be pretty good to you if you can't even think of something.
Well, right now, I'm more into the right wing people than the left wing, because the left wing are becoming very, very annoying to me.
So
Especially the.
I'm gonna get into that, but pick your least favorite thing about right wing real quick.
Mm, like, they would defend Trump on anything, like whether they know he is right or he is wrong. Like, they would always try to find an excuse. So
Okay,
that's
yeah,
something
that's
that's
fair.
not good. I like the people that support Trump but will call him on something, on the BS he says when he says it or when he does it.
Like say like Tucker Carlson, he's done some really good
Exactly.
Syria
Tucker
reporting,
Carlson.
right? Anti-war
Yes.
reporting.
Thank you for reminding me. Tucker Carlson is, I'm sure he's a right wing and he supports Trump. But when Trump attacked Syria and when he struck Syria, he was clearly against it, and he was very, very like honest about his questions. He was like, why would you strike Syria and blame the Syrian government for using chemical weapons when there was no investigation yet done? So how
Yeah.
did you conclude that it was the Syrian government that used it when there was no investigation yet? So
No,
that is something.
he does some
I
good oh sorry.
Yeah. So the thing I like the least in the right wing is that, yes, they would defend Trump on no matter what, like no matter what he did. So
Absolutely. I'm
that's
gonna
something they should not do.
I'm gonna ask you about
Mhm.
the left wing in a second too, but that's kind of my thing. And people think the way to win me over on the left is by like yelling at me and becoming super, super nasty and negative, and it just kind of pushes me the other way. But even like you're saying, it took you a while to figure out something you didn't like about the right. There's so many people, like of course there's a lot of people who will make excuses for everything, but there's also a lot of people who critique him quite often in ways that I don't even agree. But it's almost like I get my best anti-right wing content from right wing people. I get my best pro from right wing people. It just seems like they've been more honest in the left. I mean, there's a few people like Jimmy Dore or even Kyle Kalinske that I don't agree with policy wise, but they'll do some good segments about foreign policy or like PC culture. But it's like I just feel like the left is losing in so many terms because they're operating almost completely off of like emotion, identity politics, and intimidation tactics. So as the right wing's evolving and getting people who dissent more, I feel like the left is becoming a little too culty for my liking. And way too anti-free speech. That's just my thoughts. Now I want to ask you, because you're ready to roll, what's your favorite thing about the modern day left wing, and what's your least favorite thing about it? This is live from
Well,
Syria. You're with Treka.
well, the thing I like about the left is that they're more accepting to like, you know, they're more accepting for homosexuals and transgenders and people from like different kind of you know, sexualities, and if somebody's a it or is a tree or is a tire or is a car, I don't know. So like they're more accepting. It's good. But the thing I don't like about them is that they are snowflakes. They are snowflakes. Like their arguments are childish. You know, like if they want to like convince you on their opinion, they would not use a sophisticated or intelligent argument. They would immediately call you names. Like you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're a xenophobe, you're a sexophobe, you're a fartophobe, and they like immediately like call you names. If so, this is something that I don't like. There's something else that I don't like is that they talk about Donald Trump like he's a monster when they supported Hillary Clinton, which to me is very evil. Like to me, when Hillary Clinton lost, I was celebrating, because to me, like Hillary Clinton is just like a transgender Obama. It's the same person, but this time with a vagina. That's how I see it. You know, like if I was telling myself like, oh my God, if Hillary Clinton wins, then oh my God, Syria is going to get destroyed completely, because I knew that Hillary Clinton was going to be a continuation of Obama's destructive foreign policy. So that's what I don't like about the left, is that they behave like snowflakes. They cry, they make noises, and they don't have intelligent arguments. Like right now, all their message is don't vote for Trump, don't vote for Trump. So why don't you bring a Democratic nominee and like promote him with his new ideas, with his new policies, with his new whatever? But all their message is Donald Trump said this, Donald Trump farted that day, Donald Trump grabbed whatever, and that's their tactic. Donald Trump had sex with a porn star 10 years ago. So I don't know if they continue behaving like this. I think Donald Trump will win in 2020.
Yeah, I think there's a huge red wave coming too. We'll see what happens, but I'm telling you, and like people don't want to listen to me, they get mad, but I'm really trying to help because I think we need a balance, and I don't think he has every answer in the world. However, I'm running. I went to Politicon. It was like a big political conference. Like it's not just. I mean, obviously, a large percentage of the United States is white, and he has a big support base there. But I have women, men, like literally drag queens, transgenders who like Trump. Like half the people who stopped
I
me were
saw the
Latino.
video. Yes, I saw.
Yeah,
I
and
saw the interview.
I see this stuff every day. Like it's not like a random. I see it every day. Like Uber drivers, Lyft drivers from Iran, from Syria, from South America. Like there's a growing population of people who don't want to be seen as the victim, who don't want to cry about everything, who don't want to intimidate people and get louder instead of getting smarter and more accurate. And they don't want to paint the whole world with this whole brush of like race, religion, gender, you're right, you're wrong based on your race, religion, gender, but we're somehow not sexist and racist, although we don't categorize you as an individual. You are this person and you can't do otherwise. It's really not having a good effect. Trump is going to win super big in 2020. The whole left wing's collapsing, but they don't want to see this stuff. Like it's like the right wing can be stubborn and ignorant for sure, but I've never seen such an epic collapse of the left. Like, yes, of course, they've always been maybe a little bit softer and a little bit more identity politics, but you have like a full-blown meltdown, and then instead of like changing, they just get mad at people like me or even people on the left wing who try to help them out. It's like they're a kid who wants to do the wrong thing. They want to lose and cry, but they don't care what anyone says, and they actually, instead of listening, they want to stop people from saying that. It's like people get me because you're a shill. I'm like, no, I want to not completely turn into a third world country and watch the whole world go to crap because you guys are having a little crybaby fest. Like it's not that I think the right's perfect, but I think they'll buy me maybe 5 more years to survive and function in a normal society rather than have like the most epic like Roman collapse ever seen in modern history.
It's true, and just going back to the point where you were telling me you were interviewing you know, like a drug and all these people. Like the reason why they don't show these people, these supporters in the mainstream media is because they want to try to portray all his supporters as Nazis. You know, like that's what I feel they are trying to do. Like they want to try to portray like all the people that are voting right are Nazis. They're extremists. They're very like, you know, racist people, and I think they're like misrepresenting the majority.
Oh no, totally. And even there, I had some friends there who were like left wing activists, and they were like so surprised that there were so many black Trump supporters. And the ones that were there were like decked out in full MAGA gear, like they had like American flag capes and like just their faces, because like they're watching these television stations who are lying to them and these fake pundits. And then they get out in the real world, and I'm in a state that is super liberal, and there were more right wing people than left wing people there. Cenk Uygur got booed from the Young Turks. Tucker Carlson got applauded, and there's literally hundreds of MAGA people, a majority of them who are black and Hispanic, and like the liberals were just like, "What? Those people exist?" Like the drag queen, I didn't have to run and find that. She came up to me, said, "I like your videos. I'm libertarian. I like low taxes, and the gay community hates me for it." And I'm like, "All right, let's." And actually, she was good friends with Dennis Rodman. She got me the Dennis Rodman interview. So I was like, you know, you never know what's going on, but it's really cool to see. And it's just really bad vibes, because I'm like, man, the left, they keep growing their circles smaller and smaller and smaller and getting madder and madder and madder. And I'm like, you know, like one day you're going to wake up and that circle is going to be way smaller than you thought. And it's really, it's not fun for me either. It's not like I'm like, yes, the right wing has won. I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is not my fault. I'm like, what are you doing? No one told you to act like this.
What would be your reaction if Hillary Clinton runs for presidency in 2020?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's like the ultimate lack of self-accountability and delusion. And I would probably laugh and cry at the same time, because it's like, it's 2020, you know, we got technology, all this stuff. We got so many great people in America. Like, we're going to do Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton again? Like, is that really what we're going to do? Dear Lord.
I'm back from the woods.
No, my goodness. I mean, I can't fathom, but that they don't really have anyone really good. They've spent all their time hating on Trump. If she runs, I would hope that people on that side would be like, yo, stop. Just leave us. That's how I barely talk about her, because I get the creeps just talking about her. I'm just like, leave me alone. Like, it's like a nightmare. I'm just like, stop. Like, you're doing, like, she's single-handedly like destroying the whole left. It's weird.
Yeah, that would be a surprise if she did it, if she ran again.
She might. There's a high percent. She's thinking about it.
I won't be surprised. I honestly won't be surprised.
All right, I'll wrap it up so it's not too long. This has been great. We'll have to do this again. And before I end, I want to say I think we were connected in another life spiritually, because one, we're kind of similar. You might be funnier. Two, we look kind of the same. People like have a kid. They think I'm like pretending to be like a Syrian agent. I'm like, no, this is my Treka. We just kind of look the same.
There was one day I shared one of your videos, and the people in my page, they were commenting on the video as if they were talking to me. They were like, "Yeah, Trek, a nice video. I like the part when you said this and when you said that." And I was like, "No, this is anomaly. This is anomaly." But yeah, we kind of look like each other.
Yeah, no, I think we're connected on another realm. One day we'll have to eat lunch somewhere in my country or yours, and let people know we're not the same people trying to hijack the internet.
Yeah. I would look forward to that.
And on that note, I want to say, what's the last thing you want to say, like the last message, and let people know where they can find you. Treka has a huge page on Facebook that got hijacked by some hackers who sent him a phishing email, unfortunately, but he's still building, and regardless, the numbers are still out there. Treka's got over 10 million views on Facebook. He's a superstar. I was in Hawaii. Someone stopped their car. They drove past me, stopped their car, hopped out, and we're like, "Anomaly, I loved you." Talking 30 seconds in, they were like, talking about Treka. I was like, man, Treka's famous in Hawaii. Like, they're like, okay, enough about you. What's going on with Treka in Syria? I was like, dang, it's like that now. I'm not even that cool. It's all about Treka, but he's a superstar worldwide. Let them know a message where they can find you. And thank you so much for joining. This was a really great conversation. Hopefully people listen.
Well, it was my honor talking to you, Anomaly, and I would look forward to talking to you again. And to all your other people watching, if you wanna follow me on Facebook, follow me on Treka ZN. That's the name of my Facebook page, YouTube page, and Twitter page. It's Treka ZN. And I'm sure Anomaly will put the link of my page on the comment section or description or whatever.
Totally.
And we will stay in touch.
Absolutely. All right, you'll be back. Check out Treka's videos. They're absolutely hilarious. They're definitely not politically correct. So I'm sure some people
Definitely,
who
yeah.
will
No snowflakes allowed.
well, they could come, but they're not going to be very happy. They definitely might shed a tear.
Okay, no
All
problem.
right, I'll share your video with Justin Trudeau today, and then I'll give a description and whatnot. So Treka, guys, thank you so much for joining. Treka, that was great. We'll be back. I'm gonna try to end this. I haven't done Google Hangouts, so let's see how this goes. Thank you, guys. As always, if you'd like to support, sign up to my free email list and support Treka this time. I don't even want to talk about myself. That's my brother from another country.